we're out camping again, and I'm learning that my 2007 Toyota Sequoia is absolutely a dream to drive. Great rig for towing. I can't believe it, but I actually have 20-inch wheels now. I think the stiffer sidewalls on these 20 inches actually helps quite a bit. The ride is really nice when towing. And these are Hankook 20s, Dynapro ATM 275/55 by 20. No rubbing in the back, but it does rub a little bit in the front on the inside of the mud flap. So I'm thinking about taking the mud flaps off and then trimming it down a little bit. Other than that, no issues. Rides really great on the freeway. We tow our A-liner camper, and I noticed that the Sequoia on regular driving, we usually get 18 miles per gallon, and this is the rear-wheel drive version. And while towing, we get somewhere between 15 and 16 miles per gallon. So it's really not bad. The fuel economy is not as bad as I thought it would be for a big V8 like this Toyota, but it runs really great. I wanted to go over some of the enhancements or improvements we've made. First of all, the headlights were really dim when we got it, so this is an older car, 2007. So I did add LED headlights that are really bright and white, so that was really cool. And obviously I mentioned the rims already. Really smooth ride with these rims. I wired up a backup camera, and I'll show you kind of what I've done inside. I mounted the wiring all inside the console here, so nothing's sticking out. So it's a real clean installation, right? And then I started reading online, reading the reviews saying that being turned on all the time or plugged in all the time, it's gonna drain my battery. I've installed a switch that turns on and off, so it's not gonna drain the battery, right? So that's a nice touch. So I'm gonna flip my switch to turn it on. My car is in reverse. That means the camera is powered. And here we go. So I can pretty clearly see my camper behind me. The cool thing with having this aftermarket rear view camera is that you can tilt it. So I can go back to the car and tilt it down if I wanted to look at my hitch. I can tilt it more up to look out in front of me, or behind me I should say. So it's been a pretty nice addition. The screen isn't super clear. Like right now you can see it's way too sunny outside for the camera, so it's kind of washed out, but it's clear enough so that I can see what I'm doing. So I'm still happy with it. And since I'm done using it for now, I'm gonna go ahead and flip the screen off, and then it won't suck up any power. If I accidentally leave the switch on and turn my car off, I suppose I can drain my battery. So I try to be a little conscientious about that. Also, this cigarette plug, I've converted this cigarette plug to a 2 USB, so I can charge my devices here. It also tells me the voltage of the battery, which is pretty cool. If I ever see it dip, then I'll know that maybe I'm having a problem with the battery. It is an older car, right? So I gotta keep an eye on things like that. But I haven't seen this dip more than maybe 12.4, 12.3 volts. So I think my battery is just fine. Of course, when the car's running, it jumps up to about 14 because the alternator kicks in and I get more voltage out of it. And the very last thing is the mirror. I added a wide view rear view mirror. I can pretty much see everything I need to see out of that wide view mirror now, and it's made a big difference because the stock one is really skinny. So you can see all the windows that I can see out of through this camera. I do believe it's bent a little bit, and it's really wide angle, so the views out of the back are really clear. And this has made a big difference for drivability for this car. It's made a huge improvement. One thing I want to point out, I have the two-wheel drive SR5, so that means no moonroof, right? But the cool thing is I get all this storage up above for glasses and things, and then I have two large storage above, which I really like. The kids like hiding little things in there, like little figurines and toys. And that's it. Very simple car, great truck, drives awesome. Pretty quiet on the freeway. I haven't heard any weird noises or anything, so it runs really nice. Really smooth. One thing that's common on these Sequoias is that the mirrors get loose over time, and in order to tighten the screws, I guess from below, you got to take the door panel off inside, which I've already done. And instead of just tightening the screws, I added some washers to make it real tight. Let me show you under the hood. I just added some water to the washer fluid because we were running low on this trip. But this is probably my favorite part of this truck. Lots of room to work on it inside. I changed the spark plugs myself. It's real easy. Access was really easy. Of course, changing the air filter was also really easy. And there just aren't very many pieces. It's a very simple car. So I feel like this is one of those cars anybody can work on if you have a competent mechanic. So you could be stranded in the middle of nowhere if you're ever stranded with this car, and someone can work on it because there's nothing special about it, and there's basically nothing under the hood. It's a very simple car, right? And I think that's why these are known for lasting 500, 600,000 miles. Some people call it the million-mile motor because it's supposed to last 1,000,000 miles. I don't think I can ever drive it that much. We're at 121,000. And we currently drive it about 3,000 miles a year, I think. 4,000 miles a year. Because we mainly use it for just camping. And what a great ride. I think these 20-inch 4Runner wheels really made a big difference, right? I really like the way it looks now. It just looks really cool. Looks really modern with these big wheels. When 20-inch wheels first came out in like the late 90s, I thought they were so ridiculous, but now that I see it on this car, it looks pretty nice. I thought no one's ever gonna need anything bigger than 18-inch wheels. It turns out I needed these 20s. And they look freaking awesome. I love them. So on this trip, we towed our 8-liner camper, which is probably about 2,500 pounds fully loaded. And it pulled it like it was nothing. I couldn't even tell that there was anything behind the car. I think because these V8s have so much torque down low that it just doesn't have to work very hard to pull a load like this. My fuel economy was going down a little bit. Like I mentioned earlier, I was getting 15 to 16 miles per gallon. That's the only real difference I noticed while driving. It's not as fuel thirsty as people think. Because I'm running regular gas in this car, right? If you had a similar car or an SUV that runs on premium gas that gets maybe 20 miles a gallon, well, the Sequoia is probably cheaper to drive. I know a lot of people would prefer to tow with an all-wheel drive vehicle, but in the case of the Sequoia, I think rear-wheel drive is just fine because when you have a trailer hooked up to the back, it's adding a lot of extra weight to the rear axle. So if your tongue weight's like 300 pounds, right? It's like really loading up the trunk of the Sequoia with like 300 pounds worth of stuff. So you get a lot of great traction from the rear end. We've taken our Sequoia with our trailer in heavy rain and it doesn't skip a beat. Like we haven't lost traction or had any issues driving up to campsites in heavy rain. So I think it's really just fine. Now, if I'm driving in the snow, probably not a good idea with just rear-wheel drive. But for our purposes, going to different campsites around California, it's been perfect. So yeah, and the added benefit to having just the rear-wheel drive vehicle is that the parts are really simple. It's mechanically a lot more simple. There's no transfer case or front differential. It just has the big rear differential pumpkin. And we replaced the fluids there and also the transmission cooler. Through the transmission cooler lines, we've totally exchanged the transmission fluid. Drivetrain wise, we have fresh fluids all around, right? And we change the engine oil every, few thousand miles and it's totally fine. I am gonna switch to synthetic with this next change and I'll probably let it go for over a year on just synthetic motor oil. And it's such a simple car with no features. And this is exactly what I want for a tow vehicle. It's great. All right, hope you enjoyed this video. We'll see you soon. Thanks. Bye.